What does it mean to go on an adventure? When I hear that phrase, I think of the tropes. A long and winding road, new friends, new enemies, terrible challenges, tantalizing treasures. New and exciting things entering one's life for the first time. Change. Like all story, adventures change. Just maybe more exciting change than usual. And in most stories, that kind of change only happens when the hero finally leaves home. Because, ideally, that's what the home is for. To be a place that doesn't change. A place where adventures don't happen. A place of stability from which adventures can begin. I think there's truth in that. But I also think it leads us to overlook so much of what the home actually is, so much of what it can be. How easily you forget while looking through the windows, longing for green hills far away or dreaming up dragons to slay, the tiny world that exists around you. Yes, the changes that happen here are small in scale, but that doesn't mean they're without value. In fact, I'd wager your home tells the most valuable of all your stories, if you allow it to. The rest of your life and your ambitions are just too big for you to see it. Which is why I want to bring in some folks who are a little smaller to help. Meet the borrowers. Having trouble writing? Well, there's a class you can take for free that I think will really help. It certainly helped me. Creative Personal Writing, Write the Real You, taught by Ashley C. Ford. Check the description to see how you can get access to it and change how you think about writing forever without spending a dime. A big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video and giving us the opportunity to tell you about it. This class has been a special one for me, and I feel really lucky to get to share it with you this way. Thanks, Skillshare. You've probably heard stories about household spirits or pixies that come in the night to mend your shoes and eat your bread. In some ways, the little people from Mary Norton's book, The Borrowers, aren't so different. They look just like you, if you were about as tall as your thumb. They live in the walls or under the floorboards or in the furniture and only steal out into the wider house when you aren't looking to borrow little pieces of your life. And everything is borrowable if they can find a way. Scraps of old letters are salvaged from wastebaskets to become wallpapers in their homes, arranged so that the lines of text make neat vertical stripes. Stamps become stylish vintage portraits of royalty hung about their sitting rooms. Silver thimbles become stew pots, blotting paper becomes carpeting, safety pins become enormous gate locks to keep eager little borrowers in and curious house cats out. Interesting little creatures, to be sure, but make no mistake, they are people. Not spirits, not pixies. People, just like you. They have similar concerns and woes. They're proud of their lineages and the families they raise. They're proud of their little homes assembled from the detritus of your life. They have dreams and desires, preferences and predispositions. Nevertheless, their lives are made up of yours. Every single thing they borrow was at one point something you brought into your home, something that had a purpose, however small, in your life. Maybe those letters borrowed from the wastebasket were from a particularly difficult relationship which you'd rather forget. But the borrowers won't. Maybe you don't need that safety pin anymore because you only bought it to hold together your favorite dress back when it fit you. But the borrowers need it now. They see and hold on to all the parts of your life that you forget. They remember. They are their own people, but they're also the home itself. And as the eyes and ears of the home, they have a very interesting perspective on humans. Human beings are for borrowers, like bread's for butter, says Arietti, the main character. Like bread's for butter. When I first read that, I had to pause and think about it for a while. It doesn't sound incredibly poignant at first, but there's something strange about it. I think most of us would think that butter is for bread, if anything. It sounds like an inversion to me. If we think of the borrowers as the home, instead of saying that homes are for people, I think she's saying that people are for homes. But how does that make sense? People literally build their homes to live in. Of course, the home is for the person, not the other way around, right? Well, I think that's certainly true for a house, but I like to think that we use the term home somewhat differently. A house can be built with intent. A home emerges. It's something that simply happens as you live your life. You and your world will change almost constantly, but the stable nexus in the storm's eye, the place to which you can return for rest and routine, whatever that looks like, wherever it is, becomes your home. You are for your home in the same sense that you are for your life. You are here to live, and the home is the gallery of that experience, composed of all its moments and memories. I find that idea really beautiful, and the borrowers certainly help me to see it more clearly. But there's also a strange tension in it, isn't there? As much as the borrowers think that your purpose is to live your life so they can borrow the pieces of it for their own, they also want homeostasis. They want things to stay as close to the same in your home as possible, because that makes their lives way, way easier. Unfortunately for them, life isn't really like that. And there's another type of little person who put this into perspective for me: the Hobbit. In some ways, hobbits are a lot like borrowers. No, they don't live in your walls or take your things, but they do embiggen parts of your domestic life. I would even go so far as to say that their whole culture is almost just that, an exaggeration of the routines and rituals of the home. Hobbits eat up to 7 meals a day, including breakfast, second breakfast, 11s, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and supper. They smoke from luxuriously large pipes which reach nearly down to their woolly toes. They love to keep old, useless trinkets, which they call mathams, handed down and re-gifted over and over. And above all, they abhor adventuring. To them, a respectable hobbit is one who stays out of all that mischief. Now that I think about it, they kind of seem like the perfect host for borrowers, don't they? Very little change in routine, excessive food and sundry. Everything would even be a little closer to the correct size for them, too. Sort of a match made in heaven. And it's not just the borrowers who feel this way either. How many idealize the hobbit lifestyle or something like it? How many long for what these wee folk have? Their world is that of the idyllic domestic life. They epitomize so many ideals about what the home is, what it should be. The home is comfortable, it is reliable, it is safe. Hobbits are the everyman, and their story is the romance of a static life. But remember what we learned from the borrowers. You may live in a house, but your home comes from within you. Your home is a reflection of the life that you live, the experiences that you live for. The idyllic life of the Hobbit, the homeostatic world the borrowers long for, is a life lived for its own sake. The house consumes its occupant. The change dies away. It becomes a place where no stories are told. It ceases to be a home. I suspect that part of the reason Tolkien chose for his adventure story, one of the most famous of all time, to start in the Shire among the hobbits, is because it appears to be such an unchanging environment. When our hero, Bilbo Baggins, finally decides to set out from his little hobbit hole to follow his adventure, I personally think it reflects less on his individual curiosity and more on how people in general tend to romanticize their static, unstoried lives. In order to find his story, he must leave. And in order for us to hear his story, he must come back. If he'd stayed home, there would be nothing to tell. He would have lived in a house, and very little more. But after his journey, after going there and back again, the house changes with him. His magical dagger can be found hanging over the fireplace. His maps and memoirs lie open in the study, covered in fresh ink. It becomes a small cabinet of curiosities unto itself, reflecting the life he's found, the changes he's experienced. It's these changes that turn the house into a home. It becomes a gallery of his adventures, the physical story of his life. This is exactly what I think we overlook. The home isn't a static, unchanging place. It's liminal. It is the story of you, which means that it's always in the process of change. It only appears to be static because without your influence, it doesn't change. If you aren't living, experiencing the changes which create the story of your life, home doesn't exist. How can it? And the borrowers can help you see that. Sure, in the story they may want simple houses, as unchanging as possible, But what makes their story interesting is that they occupy homes. When they travel out into the night to find new wallpaper in your wastebasket, or a new portrait in your mail cabinet, or a new stew pot in your sewing kit, they're traveling into the assemblage of your life. You are their adventure. Be sure that you make it one worth having. As a writer, I think my craft is also sort of part of this process. Yes, obviously, I love to write fiction and all, but part of my ability to adventure in that way comes from knowing myself. When I write about the experiences I have, the ways that I feel about them, it's a lot like decorating my home with the trophies of a journey. It commits them to my physical space, makes them a part of my little world in a way that they can never be just floating around in the mists of my mind. It's hard, though, especially because I got my start with writing fiction. Writing about myself just didn't feel very natural at first. It didn't feel interesting enough. But I actually took an online course some time back that really helped me open up this side of my creativity, helped build that stable home to fill up with adventures, so to speak. It's called Creative Personal Writing, Write the Real You, and it's taught by the incredible Ashley Ford. Don't worry, it's not some huge, sprawling, semester-long thing. It's a compact 7 classes, over the course of which you'll learn to write from your memory, report on your own experiences, pull the murkier memories out of the past and into the present, create legitimate memories where there are gaps, share your work, and begin the actual process of writing. It's the kind of thing I feel fiction writers don't talk about often enough. The kind of thing I think can change your relationship with the craft permanently, if you let it. It certainly did for me. And here's the best part. You can actually watch the whole series for free by signing up for a free trial of Skillshare. I would personally sign up for this class alone, but you'll also get access to thousands of other classes as well. Experts from pretty much every discipline gathered together in one place to share their knowledge and experience. There are classes on creative writing, illustration, fine art, animation, graphic design, film and video, pretty much anything you can imagine. You can even join in on live classes, connecting with other creatives and teachers while you learn. After talking to them about it, it seems like the people over at Skillshare can see why we're so excited about this writing class, so they've decided to give you the opportunity to experience it and any other Skillshare class which catches your interest for free. Until the end of August, the first 1,000 Tale Foundry fans who join the Skillshare community will get not just the usual 15-day trial for free, but a full 30-day trial. An entire month of free learning and expert guidance on all the creative things you ever wanted to do. Click on the link in the description or the link at the end of the video to get started. And I would definitely hurry, because those slots are going to fill up fast. Once you've watched through this writing class, please come back to tell us the impact it's had on you as a writer. I live for these success stories. Now, I don't want to hear any more talk about the home being a boring setting. If you or your characters have been living, truly living, it should be one of the most interesting places out there. If it's not, don't blame the home. It's just following your lead. Go live. Your home will follow you in one way or another.